Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Intuitive Psychology podcast. I'm your host Jill Ritchie and I'm joined by Sarah Gregg, co-host. Sarah.
Hello.
We are back in the studio. Okay, so Sarah, we are talking about something really interesting today about if you're trying to make a change and it is not working, it ain't an information gap you've got. It is an intuition gap. We're going there.
We're going there.
We're going there.
We're going there. And I think this is something that everyone will instantly relate to. When we're trying to make a change in our lives, let's say we're trying to improve our health and fitness, for example, or we're trying to overcome a particular habit, and we naturally immerse ourselves in knowledge. And there's so much knowledge in the world right now. There's no shortage of it, from YouTube to podcasts to self-help books to 5-point plans that will help you make a change. And yet something isn't working. Like, yeah, you might see little changes, or you might change for 2 to 3 weeks and you have a bit of a run, but then you're back in the same cycle over and over again. And there's a difference. There's a difference in the way that we learn knowledge or that we gain knowledge. So we have knowledge by acquisition, which is I read something and I learn it and I learn through someone. And that is a very important tool. We're not downvaluing that. But the best bit that's often missing is knowledge by direct experience. And that's why and when intuition comes in. Intuition is a form of gaining knowledge for ourselves. It's specific to us. It's the messages that we need to receive. And when we get that direct experience, we have this incredible way of knowing the truth without knowing. We get these rapid insights that really propel us forward. And this is why intuition is such a strong force for change, stronger than information. But when we combine it with information together, that's why we are the home of active and applied intuition. We can activate our intuition, get those insights, and then apply that knowledge and fuse it with the information that exists for real change. But information alone will not create the change. In fact, it often paralyzes us.
As you were talking, the first thing I'm like, there's too much information.
Yeah.
Honestly, as soon as you started talking about the books and the podcast, which we're actually doing right now, the irony, it's not lost on us. But my point is, we are talking about intuition, and that is what we are so passionate about. How do we bring people back to their intuition? Because I think when I heard you talking, I'm like, it's so amazing. We're not short of information. You just need to go on YouTube. And yes, it's great, because if you want to find out how to cook something, a recipe, exercises, but it takes us further away. Because there's so many pieces of information coming at you, it takes you actually further away from your intuition, where you start looking at other people and saying, right, I need to be more like that. I need to do what they're doing. It's actually taking you further away. And I love that you said, yes, we can, reading and understanding and being shown how to do something, but what does it mean to you? How does it resonate with you? This isn't, where we're really passionate about. It's not about taking you and giving you all this information and telling you how to do it our way. Sarah and Jill and Intuitive Psychology says you must do it this way. We always say your way is the right way. And I think so many people, Sarah, are so disconnected from their way, from their own intuition, because there's actually too much information.
Yeah. And I think that overwhelming amount of information can actually make you feel broken, because you think, what's wrong with me? So, if I look back, and I know I've shared on the podcast before, like the past year in particular has been a real year where I brought a lot more focus to my health and nutrition and how I'm looking after my body. And I would look at all of the information, too much information, and everything from how much protein I should eat, how many calories I should be consuming, what's going to nourish my body. I'm moving into my 40s now, so what exercises I should be doing, how I should move my body, all of that, right? Really, really useful. But then there will come a bit where I just struggled to implement that consistently. Like there was a gap. So I would maybe make a change for a few days, protein shake, and I'm running and I'm doing it, and this is like the change. But then it would fall off a cliff and I would be genuinely so frustrated with myself because I would be like, I know what to do. I know what to do. I know exactly what to do, but why can't I do it? And I think information leaves us in that state. It's like we feel broken, we feel useless. It really activates that self-critical voice in our head. And actually, there is a world of information inside of you. A world of information that is specific to you. You are a unique human being. Generic advice can work and it is helpful, but if you really want to expand your unique potential, if you really want to be your full self, then information alone will not do that for you. It requires us to go inwards to our intuition, to our inner world, and specifically going into the unconscious. Because our unconscious is a vast storehouse where every lived experience, memory, emotion, internalized message, habit, behavior lives. And if there is a disconnect between conscious intention, in other words, this is what I want to do, in my case, I want to get fitter and healthier and I want to nourish my body, and action, if those two aren't in alignment, you don't have an information problem. You have an intuition issue. There is a gap, and the gap closes between this is what I want in my life and this is the action that I'm taking. You know, when those aren't in alignment, we wrestle with ourselves, we get frustrated with ourselves, we're in our head a lot. How we close the gap quickly is with intuition, because it goes in to the unconscious mind. When we have focused attention as to what we're going in to look for, it will extract that information and communicate it to us in a way that is normally in the form of a symbol, a metaphor, a story, that is really easy for consciousness to understand immediately. It's the immediate comprehension of, oh my goodness, I can see exactly what that issue is.
Yeah, I love this. Now, I think it would be really good, because we're going to go somewhere with this, Sarah, because what you shared about was your story of the fitness. And I think what would be really helpful for someone watching or listening to this is like them going, well, what was it then, Sarah? Because how would I know what I'm essentially blocking, right? Because I know I want to do all these things, but there's something going on in my unconscious. And I know I hear what you're saying and I want to go in there and explore it. But what was it for you?
Yeah, for me, it was the fear of being fully seen and the fear of success. So we were building IPA. I was making real leaps and moves, like in business, you know, investing fully, properly, like in a business, like, you know, together, photo shoots, putting myself out there, being creative. And there was a bit of me that was like, you don't get to have it all. So let me set this part of your life on fire. And that's what I did. So it wasn't about my ability to move more or nourish myself. I knew I wanted to do all those things. It was, I didn't value myself enough. Like, food and not nourishing my body so that I could have energy, not moving my body, made me feel like absolute crap. And that's how I thought I deserved to feel. Like, you don't deserve to feel good all of the time. You can feel good in that area and good for you, but let me set this bit of your life on fire. For me, it was like food and exercise. For other people, it can look like relationships, friendships, you know, maybe you're self-sabotaging an aspect of your career. And it wasn't until I went in. So I went in, closed down my eyes, went in and really like started to ask my intuition, like questions. You know, what's underneath this? What's really going on? And underneath it was unworthiness, not valuing myself, not feeling good enough, and ultimately feeling safe in the struggle. Like, I feel safe in the struggle because that's what I grew up with. You know, I grew up in like quite a chaotic kind of household where there was always a drama, there was always a problem, there was always something to fix. So unconsciously, outside of my awareness, is the repeated patterns of that. You know, I shared with you, we were talking about this earlier, there was a clinical psychologist called Stanley Rossiner, and he was the head of the Cleveland Psychological Association, and he'd been a psychiatrist for over 40 years. And he, you know, has a brilliant book and studied this for a long time, that early childhood informs these repeated behavior patterns that we unconsciously play out over and over again. So, you know, the successful lawyer who didn't get praise from her mother, for example, who then continually goes into workplaces where praise isn't given by a boss or a manager, or the individual who comes out, a woman who comes out of an abusive relationship and ends that relationship, but then finds a partner with similar attributes. We are continually playing out the familiar in different forms. And for me, that familiar was, life is a struggle. It's hard. There's always a drama. There's always something for my nervous system to be activated around, something to fix. And so wherever that energy needed to go, that's where it went. And for that period of time, it was definitely in food and exercise. And it wasn't until I went underneath that and really sat, got into my intuition, that it showed me. Yeah. It showed me, like, this is the bit that you need to fix. This is the bit that you need to nourish and look at and accept. And then come the practices and the integration exercises and the deep acceptance of, this is a part that I'll have to journey with, and feeling a lot of those unfelt emotions that I hadn't felt through childhood and allowing them to process. Then I am not exaggerating. It was like a spontaneous change. As soon as that had been felt, as soon as that was in my awareness, I started to exercise with ease. I started to nourish my body. I started to make changes. It was
safe.
And it felt safe. And it was way more effortless than the conscious energy that it was normally taking me to kind of go, you've got to do this, Sarah. Come on. You've got this. Like, wake up, do this. And it was all that willful force. All of a sudden it was like, that struggle like left. And I felt free to kind of allow myself to feel good in all aspects of my life.
I love that. And I love that you really shared that story as well, because this is the thing, when we move into, as you're expanding and building a new business that's successful, it requires a new level of you. The old version of you, it's almost like, I think people hold on to this, well, I'm just me and that's who I am my entire life. Like, you are nature. We are nature. Like, we are supposed to grow, expand, evolve, die, reborn. But do you know, when you look at the trees in winter, then come spring, they're beautiful again, and they've, you know, covered in flowers, and then everything falls away again, and that is seasons. And I think we're so conditioned to hold on to the identity that of who we once were and how other people see us. It's that willingness, and only when, and that's. We're giving you information, and that might resonate, but it means nothing unless you're willing to go in and journey with yourself and get radically honest with yourself, and not see this part of you as separate from you. It's not separate from you. It is you. It is all of you, all the parts, the light, the dark, the emotions, the joy, the fear, the anger, all of it. It's not separate from you. And what you did and what you shared was that what made the difference was because you were educated, you know, you have your degrees, and you, so it was never an information gap. You had, like, you knew it, but it's the actual bringing the awareness, like, okay, how is this playing out in my life right now? Exactly.
And it's specific to you as an individual. And I think increasingly, like, this is what we're craving in society right now. This is why clients will come and, you know, work with our intuitive psychology coaches, because they know there's a gap and they know that they can't see something. And they're like, I want someone to show me what I can't see.
I love that.
And undoubtedly the fastest way to do that using an evidence-based approach is with intuition, because when we work with intuition, we don't engage in the long narratives of, trying to consciously remember the story and trying to replay out and make meaning of something that maybe doesn't have meaning. That's what happens a lot when we talk things through, we pluck different bits from consciousness and we try to find a pattern. But when we work with intuition, so intuition comes from the Latin inturi, which means to look or to see. And we know from psychologists that it reveals the truth. So intuition means to see the truth. This is about seeing the truth of yourself. So if we go back to the example to really bring that into real life, if I look at me kind of like, last year, struggling with exercise, consuming all of this information, still not moving forward, getting really, really frustrated of myself. What my intuition showed me was the truth, which was specific to me. It'll be different for every person. The truth for me was, you don't feel good enough. You don't feel good enough or safe enough to, one, not have a struggle in your life, and to two, to really value yourself, because you feel like, I don't deserve it. So this is a way for me to continually feel like crap and reinforce that, oh, you're good in that, but look at you over there. You're still not doing that. You're not the embodiment of the change, and to activate that critic. It showed me that in a way that was safe, that was immediate for me to comprehend without going through a long kind of narrative, because there's a lot of memories that we can't remember. We're not conscious of.
We take parts of it and that becomes our version of the truth, but it usually isn't the full story, right?
So working with intuition in this way is an incredible way to see the truth, to see the truth that is specific to you. And then we can combine it with information. This was a big reason that we created the fundamentals, which is our 3-month training accreditation, because we know that the fitness and wellness industry specifically, there's a lot of information out there, and most people share the same information or just a slight variation, as to how to get fit and healthy. And they do that with their own authentic voice. But what's really needed is someone who can provide that specialist information, who can get you beyond those blocks.
Yeah, let's, 2 things were jumping out in me and I want to talk about. Number one, why do people struggle to actually get help, right? We'll move on to that. But when you were talking about, as we were building intuitive psychology, because the techniques and the training is so, it's actually so hard to even put into words how powerful this work is. You can't bypass it.
No.
So even every time we take a cohort of students through it, we have an activation, Sarah, and that's the truth. Because, I was speaking to my partner and he works in financial services, and so, really important work, but so different, right? It's very transactional, and of course there's his personality in there, and he's really good at what he does, but he is not emotionally attached so much to the work. And when we do this work, we're so invested in this work. This work was channeled through us. I don't, I'm saying it because this was a knowing without knowing. Yeah. This has come through us to create intuitive psychology, to take it out to the world, to be the ones that pioneer this work, but to lead others in this work, because this will be here when we are not here. But every time we run a cohort, we get an activation.
Really
and Sarah so when Sarah shared that, like, Sarah had done work up until that point, but IPA is so profound and you get an activation. So, and because how can we possibly, and we walk the talk, how can you can't be you can't teach this and not be the embodiment of this work.
No.
It's another level. It's so beautiful.
It is, and it's so important for us to share the journey. When we started this, and if you've listened to the trailer, we kind of say this, like, we're not here to kind of like preach. This is about raw, honest conversations, like the bit that, often co-founders will share the finished product. Here I am and this is what I did. And I think it's so important that we share the actual journey. Again, like when we train our coaches, we'll say they're not sages on stages, they're not guides on the side. They're there to be coaches in conscious connection, because we're all on this journey together, and it's much easier to do it side by side, knowing that there is light and dark. You can have like something that's very successful, and then you can be literally self-sabotaging or setting something on fire in the background. And we're in this continual process of evolution. And intuition and working with intuition is about getting those rapid insights so that you don't have to journey as long in that painful scenario. You don't have to feel kind of like, oh, I'm going to read this person's 4-point plan and like try to implement it in my life. You get back to the truth of what you are, and it's so beautiful. Like, it is, the initial discomfort is like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I've been doing this, and how have I never seen this before, through to this feeling of complete liberation. Like, you feel so liberated, because when you do this work, you open up yourself to new realities. Like, I am happy. It makes me really joyful when I think that I am not the same person that I was last year, that I have probably lived and been 20 different versions of myself. That to me is a brilliant life. And I used to feel shame about it. I used to think, why am I always changing? And, you know, everything's always different the next year, and I'm always on to something else. And like, why can't I just be consistent? Like, you know, just the same me all the time. But like you said at the beginning, like, we're nature, like, we're meant to grow, we're meant to evolve, and change is good. And we're not meant to have all of that change at one time. No. It comes in increments. Like, when something comes into your awareness, the self is always protecting the self. It comes into your awareness when you're safe to hold it, when you're ready to see it. Otherwise, it stays in the unconscious because you're not ready. You don't have capacity to hold it. That came into my awareness because it was like, you need to see this, and you need to stop setting things on fire in your life and self-sabotaging aspects, because you're building something really beautiful, and your next evolution is, how can you hold all of that?
Yeah. Being able to hold it. And so, question on that one, do you feel that you would have got there eventually had you not tapped into the intuition piece?
I think it would have been a lot longer and a lot harder, and I think the danger would have been, for me, and I think for anyone on this journey, starting to attach those labels, which was beginning to happen in my life. You know, I was starting to label myself as, it's because I'm in my 40s. You know, it's because I'm in my 40s and it's really, really hard now to kind of like exercise and move, or I just can't exercise and I've tried it, or this is me, this is just the way it is now. And I think then then that restricts growth because we stagnate. Yeah. Versus, okay, maybe it's not about that. Maybe it's the fact that, because that's really uncomfortable, right? The truth's uncomfortable. Maybe it's because you don't value yourself. How about that? Oh, well, I don't really like the thought of that. Can it not just be because I'm in my 40s? That's way more palatable.
That's what it is.
You just don't value yourself enough. And actually, unconsciously, you know, it's easier whenever you feel like crap, because that's what you've been used to for a large proportion of the time. And that's really uncomfortable to admit. And the story and the lies.
Yeah, of course.
That is a tough pill to swallow. But let me tell you, it's the most liberating thing in the world, because when you do and you see the truth of yourself, you exit one reality and you open up another, and you go into this world of possibilities, and you see yourself doing stuff that you never ever imagined that you would be capable of. And it is absolutely brilliant and terrifying all at once, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah. Sometimes when you're in the dark night of the soul
when I'm
moment,
in the dark,
let's
I might
be
ask
honest,
you to take it away from me.
And you're like, why did I sign up to this? But joking aside, and actually just tapping into your intuition, for me, like, it isn't even just about what it shows you. It's the deepest connection that you build with yourself. It's the trust that you build with yourself. It's the connection. It's the safety. It's like you become this, you meet your new best friend, right? And it's like, you know, your intuition will never lie to you. Your mind will. Your mind will lie to you all day long. And listen, we need the mind. The mind's amazing, but it's there to protect you and tell you and show you all the evidence of when it didn't work and keeps you in the head in the story. But your intuition will never lie to you. It is like your best friend that is always there for you, no matter what, no matter how crap you've spoken to yourself, no matter any shame that you're holding on to, no matter what you've done in your past, how you've behaved to others, to yourself. It's like pure love and forgiveness. It is there for you no matter what. It is unconditional love. And actually, why would you not want to start to befriend that part of yourself? Like, It is safety, it's essence, it's truth, it's authenticity, it's comfort. It's all of that. So Sarah, you know, we're right, it's scary, but what it does is it shows you the truth, right? It shows you the truth. But even when, you know, if the shit is hitting the fan, when you can drop into that, there is when you really like work with it and you build a relationship with that part of yourself, which again, not separate, it's the self, it's you, that like little miniature thumb size soul version of you that sits in your heart. It's so, God, it's so comforting. It's like a feeling like no other. And you know, you're when you're in it, you're like, I know I'm going to be okay. I know that there might be challenges, but I know I'm going to be okay. And our invitation to you is to see that there's so much information out there and there's so many things that will resonate and will help you along the way, but nothing will beat your intuition. It is your best medicine. It is your healer. It's your comforter. It's everything.
Yeah. It really is. It's the truth of who you are, and we should never be frightened of that. It can be a tough pill to swallow, but like you said, it becomes your best friend. It becomes that part of you that you can tune into. When we were driving up here today, we were having a conversation about alcohol because, you know, as part of my intuitive nudges, you know, I stopped drinking last year, and we were both, and you stopped and have really kind of like cut down, and alcohol isn't like a big part of your life, you know, anymore, maybe the way it was before. But we were saying like we're so closely connected with our intuition, where you'll tap in and go and listen and go, oh, I don't want it. Oh no, it's not the right time. I don't want it. And for me, it's like, you know, it's just it's a no for me. No. The body's just saying no right now. Or the
body says yes.
And I have so much deep trust in that. Like I don't need, and this is the beauty, like I don't need a narrative around why that's a no. Yeah. I just know that it's a no, and how you then present yourself to other people. Like now when I meet people and they're like, oh, do you want a glass of wine? And I go, oh no, I'm okay, I'm not drinking. That's where the conversation ends, because I feel this strong connection and certainty and confidence within myself when I trust that, versus when you just working with like the conscious mind that then you're in your head and you're like, oh, I'm not drinking because I don't really want to. And I'm not saying never, but blah, blah, blah. And you go into this long narrative. With intuition comes trust, certainty, belief, wholeness, confidence, and it's always available to us. And the more we strengthen that relationship, the more we hear its messages, the more it becomes that guiding force in our life. Yeah. And for our coaches that train with us, it's what enables them to get the most transformative results. It's what gives them confidence and certainty when they're coaching a client. It's what gives clients in real life, in real time, these like, wow, aha moments. Oh my goodness, I've never seen it in that way before. That is the power and strength of intuition. And that's why we're so passionate about talking about this invisible force that can feel hard to understand, especially if you haven't accessed it in a while. But this is your invitation to cultivate that relationship with your intuition, closing down your eyes, connecting to your heart, you know, writing in your journal in a free flow way, like really allowing your inner information to come through before you consume the information of others.
Yeah. And as we sort of end this episode, it is that, once again, we say it a lot, Sarah, as within, so without. Like, it is not only everything we have described, it is your best healer, it's your medicine. If you are struggling with any sort of pain in your body, anxiety, emotions, all of these things, like physical pain as well, like we can, when we really strengthen that intuitive muscle within ourselves, there's ways that we can go even deeper. We can start to communicate with those parts. And, you know, we train our coaches in this. We talk to those parts. We're able to go in and see, like, what is really underneath this pain that I may be having in my back, in my stomach, in my shoulder. What is really underneath this emotion? And actually, the more connected to our intuition that we are, we can actually start to really heal parts of ourselves. That's how deep this work goes. We become our healers. We can heal parts of ourselves. It is because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. No. Like, that's the thing, right? It's there. It is. Yeah, it's magic.
It is. And the beauty is, whenever you do this work, especially if you have had like the privilege to to experience intuitive psychology coaching, whether you've been at one of our events, maybe you've been a case study for one of our students, maybe you are like one of our graduates is indeed your coach, and that's kind of why you're tuning into this. When we work with intuition, it often communicates to us in the form of imagery, because imagery is the language of the unconscious. So you do see it. You do see it, even if you don't feel disconnected. You know, when we're able to really activate it, people have the most profound insights and moments, because they close out the outer world by closing down their eyes, and they go into their inner world, and they're able to view their inner landscape and the things that are holding them back in a way that they can readily comprehend, in a way that they can begin to make really conscious changes in their life. And it's so powerful and it's so beautiful, and we are wildly passionate about this subject, because information will only bring you so far on your journey of change, but intuition will take you everywhere.
Okay. Powerful. I love it. I could talk about this all day, every day. It is just everything and more. So if you are listening to this and you're like, right, I need to tune into my intuition, it really isn't as hard as you may think. It really starts with carving out a little bit of space, breathing with conscious intent, not right, okay, I'm just going to breathe. Like, really take some deep breaths, maybe stretch your body, maybe have a little bit of a shake, sit down in stillness and be with stillness, even just for a minute, build up to 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever that is, and just breathe in the stillness of the breath. Imagine that you are, as you're breathing, you are sending your breath into your body, and just intuitively notice where that wants to go. Intuitively notice which part of your body you feel most drawn to, and then breathe into that space. And it's just a practice. There are so many exercises, Sarah, but I think even just practicing being in the stillness, being in the body, imagine even dropping out of your mind. Like, if you were to think about your intuition right now, where in your body do you feel most drawn to? Like, starting to really trust that, playing around with it.
I think that's amazing. And then if you want to build on that, let's say, for example, there's something in your life that is creating a bit of resistance, that you're frustrated with, that you really want to make that change, but you're struggling to complete the exercise that Jill has said. And when you feel comfortable to, just ask the question, like, what are you here to tell me? What are you here to tell me? What do you need me to know about this? And just notice, like, the information that comes forward to you, and don't force it, just be with it. And it's gently cultivating this relationship with our intuition through these practices that you will start to experience the insights, and it will elicit that information that is true to you, that is necessary for you to move forward and step into your full potential.
Yeah. And just very quickly before we wrap up, notice if you're in a long story.
Yes.
Then you're in your mind, and exercises like just even counting down from 10 to 1 and really coming back in. If you're in a long story, chances are you're in their head. It really will just be in one word or an image or a colour. That's when you know your intuition. You know that you're into it and your intuition. I'll get those words out. On that note, let's wrap up, Sarah. What another lovely episode. We hope you enjoyed it, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.